Peter Norton talks about in his books all the different types of leadership in his book, Leadership Theory and Practice. And when I was deciding who to talk about on this last project for this class, I went back through the book and I kind of studied back up on all of the different types of leaderships, and I kept coming back to servant leadership. And when I thought about servant leadership, there was one couple who was just stood out to me in my life, who has always been there for me, and I just felt led to do this about them. And Northouse says in his book that a servant leader has the natural feeling to serve, and not only to serve, but to serve first. And I knew from the moment that I met Brother and Sister Adams in an airport in West Africa late at night, I was exhausted, but I knew that they were special. And not only in the way that they helped us next steppers adjust to life in West Africa, but it was like we were top priority. They wanted to make sure that we were as comfortable as possible. If we needed anything, they were quick to make sure that our needs were met. And my first thoughts were, I'm here to help you. Like, I'm fine. I'm okay. What can I do for you? And what I have learned throughout this class, and even, this is my first semester with Urshan, but it's that servant leaders truly do put their followers first. And that I should strive to be that every day with all the teams that I lead, with my tellers at the bank and my Sunday school kids and my youth class. And Northouse says that servant leaders put followers first. They empathize with them, they nurture them, they empower them, and they help them develop to their fullest capacity. And that is one thing that I can truly say about the Adams, is that from the moment I met them to today, that they keep me in check. They make sure that I am living to the best of my ability. They continuously encourage me and uplift me, but most important for me is that they lead me to God. They share their wisdom and advice when I need it, and that's what a servant does for their leaders, and they just excel in being servant leaders. And while they served in Togo, I was honored to get to work with them for 2 months, and I was, it was incredible to work beside them and see the relationship with them and the Nationals, but not only with them in the Nationals, but with the other missionaries who were there, like the Sullys, the Sarsfields, Amber as an aimer there, and all of us Next Steppers. And it was really cool because I kind of got the outside look. Like, I got to see it.
Let's call it a night.
Sorry, he's trying to talk to me. Sorry, my phone. Okay, so I got to see this, and it's very evident that in the Nationals' eyes, the Nationals of Togo and the country that they were in, that the Adams were their leader. They looked up to them. They welcomed their advice. They welcomed their preaching and their teaching. They needed them. And that was so evident. And it was really an incredible thing to see because, I was seeing firsthand what a servant leader should do, and how the followers responded to them was incredible to me. Peter Northouse says in his book that Robert Greenleaf, who originally coined the term servant leadership, stated that a servant leader has a social responsibility to be concerned about the have-nots and those less privileged. And I was a little hesitant to talk about this when I started writing this, but to me it was important to add in here that I hate to refer to the people of Africa as the have-nots, because I do not believe that whatsoever, but looking at it from a poverty point of view and from a things point of view and access to medicines and needs that they have, they are less fortunate than most. And it is very evident of that poverty. But, for the Adams, it wasn't a matter of, oh, look at this poverty. It's so overwhelming. There's too much, we can't do it. There's just too much, let me sit here and cry about it. No, it wasn't that. It was, okay, the poverty is real. There is a lot of it. Now, what can I do to help? what can I do to get these people's needs met? And it was so inspiring to me. But, besides the Adams just being there for spiritual guidance and for just, for preaching and teaching to the Nationals, they helped meet the physical needs as well, which isn't something you so much hear about regarding missionaries. Now, today you do, but what really amazed me is that they and the brother and sister Sully and the Sarsfields, they arranged for us to go help an orphanage during our time in Togo. But what was really cool is that ahead of time, they gave us a list of all of the kids at this orphanage, and they had us bring clothes and toys and medicines for them and arranged just this incredible list of things to bring these kids. But what was so special to me, besides the fact that, we got to give them rice that would feed them for months versus the dirty water that they were drinking and all the above, but we were able, as the Next Steppers, as a group, we had the opportunity to pay off the medical bill at the local village. But the cool thing about this was, so we paid off the medical bill at the clinic. And the cool thing about this is that this wasn't asked of us Next Steppers. But because we were witnesses to the Adams and how they were with the Nationals and with the people of Togo and even with their other missionaries under them and their Amers, we were inspired. We were absolutely inspired by them. And that's, as in, going back to Brother Northhouse's book, that's how he explains servant leadership. A servant leadership, they empower people, they inspire people, and that's exactly what the Adams did. They empowered us. They made us feel like, okay, they can do this, we can do this, we can do this, we can call people, we can get money to help pay off these medical bills so kids can get the medical help that they need. We can do this. They inspired us. And Northouse talks about the outcomes of servant leadership, and one of those outcomes in the book that he talks about is social impact. And he discusses how servant leadership is likely to have a positive impact on society. And that is exactly what happened with this orphanage. Because of the Adams and because of their leadership, they inspired us Next Steppers as a group. And because of that, the orphanage clinic bill was paid off. And they had actually stopped seeing kids from the orphanage because they couldn't pay their bill. And so not only were we affected as a group, where our hearts changed because of this, but because of that inspiration brought from our leaders, the kids were able to get the help that they needed. And the cool thing about servant leadership is that it can create a domino of good deeds, kind of like the pay it forward concept. And what I mean by that is that me as a follower, I observe my leader being a servant. I watch that. They servicing their community, the less fortunate, helping those under them, those who can't help themselves. That inspires me. And that is what the Adams constantly did in Togo. And as I was doing the reading in Northouse for this course, when we came to the section on servant leadership, I began to read in section 10 I began to read the section on the 10 characteristics of servant leadership. And as I read through these, I was immediately, even back weeks ago when we went over this section, I was immediately reminded of the Adams. And all of these, and I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail on all of them, but okay, so those 10 characteristics of servant leadership are: number 1, listening skills. Northouse says that servant leaders communicate by listening first. And I can remember countless conversations with the Adams, and whether by email or you can kind of listen to email, you read, but you still listen, but mainly face to face. And of just me pouring, because they're my mentors now, and I adore them, but I pour my heart out to them with no interruption, no judgment, and they're just listening. They're hanging on every word that I'm saying. They're soaking that in. And then after taking all that in, then they bring me a reply. And sometimes it may be a few days later, but that tells me that they really are listening, that they really have my best interest at heart. And the second thing, Peter Northouse says the 10 characteristics of servant leadership is empathy. And, kind of as an example, as I talked about the orphanage, they care for the less fortunate, but not just the less fortunate, it's every person they come in contact with. And Northouse says that they make a follower feel unique and special because they take the care and look for ways to help. They take the time to see what they can do to help these people. Number 3, healing. They truly care for everyone's well-being. And since they're now not in Togo anymore, but they are the regional directors over all of Africa, so they have many followers to take into consideration. They have all of the missionaries in Africa under them, and including the AIMers or the AYCers who go, or the Next Steppers, and, me as an AIMer. But, that's a lot of people, but they give one-on-one attention and one-on-one care to each and every single one of those. And that's so incredible to me because of all the people that they have to deal with. But number 4, awareness. 5, persuasion. 6, conceptualization. And I had to look up this one a little bit, but they says this refers to an individual's ability to be a visionary for an organization, providing a clear sense of its goals and directions. And as RDs of Africa, they are constantly having to vision cast for our missionaries and help keep them on goal and keep them on target. 7, foresight. And this one was really interesting to me because my first thought was, how does someone predict the future? That's not possible. But what gives them a really cool perspective of this is that they've been there. They were missionaries in Togo for over 20 years. They know what has worked and what hasn't worked. So they are a great help to the missionaries where, not that they can see what's going to happen, but they can possibly see the outcomes of what is going to happen. 8, stewardship. That one speaks for itself. 9, commitment to the growth of people. And this was one of the top ones for me because, and I'm trying to hurry, I know my time is running long. This was one of the top characteristics for me because I'm living proof of their commitment to people and helping them grow. The Adams have walked me through so many things since I met them in 2014. They led me on the mission field in Togo. They led me back to the mission field. I got to serve with them for a while in South Africa while we met them for a big conference there. And they continuously encourage me and make sure that I am walking with God. And as that's in a spiritual sense, but even as a servant leader, that is one of the most important things, is to lead your followers to Christ. And that is exactly what they do. 10, building community. Northouse describes community. Northouse in his book describes community as a collection of individuals who have shared interests and pursuits and feel a sense of unity and relatedness. Community allows followers to identify with something greater than themselves. And this is the perfect description for the Adams and their community of missionaries, their community of AIMers and Next Steppers, and just the entire Africa team. And they help bring all those pieces together for one common goal. They help keep us focused on that goal, keep us focused on the prize, and what that is reaching the souls of Africa. And they do an incredible job of making sure each member of this incredible Africa team feels involved, feels valued, and feels fulfilled. I'm almost done, but Brother Adam sends out a monthly newsletter to the Africa team, and it's called The Most Excellent Way to Lead. And which is so fitting for this course, but each of the lessons are different ways to lead, cool tips and little tidbits on ways to lead. But at the end of these, he always adds a quote, kind of like he calls it his quote of the month. And in November's quote, which I thought was really cool, because all of these newsletters have been really fitting for this class, but the November quote was this: "Good teams become great ones when the members trust each other enough to surrender the me for we." And that was by Phil Jackson. And with the Adams, what you see is what you get. They're real, they care, they're faithful. They are the definition, whether my definition of servant leadership or Peter Northouse's definition of servant leadership, they are the whole package. And I strive to be like them every day. They inspire me. I want to be like them, to serve like them, to lead like them. And I strive to be like them in all of my leadership roles. Like I said, whether it be my tellers at the bank, my Sunday school kids, my youth kids, they inspire me and they teach me to lead by being a servant first. And in my opinion, that is one of the most important things that you can do for your followers. This has been an amazing course. Thank you so much.